The opening statement is we got our ass kicked. A humiliating performance. Got to give credit to North Carolina. They were phenomenal. They're probably as good as they can play, matched up with probably as badly as we can play, and that's the result. Had a good week. Felt like we were ready. Very peculiar. Just that's different than something I've seen. Something happened that's not the way that we play. We'll have to take a hard look at the film. And thank goodness we have a chance to play another game to end 2020 on the right note. I did tell the players that it has been a long year, and over the course of the year, still proud of what they've done to finish the season 8-2. We do not have to be defined by this year, but we damn sure better learn the lesson from it. With that, I'll open up for questions.
All right, Coach, our first question for you comes from David Feronas of the Sun Sentinel. David, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. A couple questions for you. First, I just want to start off with a couple of housekeeping things. We didn't get to ask you about the Jalen Knighton injury. And then I also want to know, is this indeed the final regular season game? Is there any possibility at all? I know that it's unlikely, but that there would be another game scheduled for next weekend before the bowl game?
Jalen, the injury that he occurred in the Duke game was serious enough that he won't be able to play. He couldn't play tonight, won't be able to play in the bowl game whenever that is. And no, this was our last regular season game. We became aware of that on Friday. There's no one left in the league for us to play that we haven't played, and the people we haven't played, they're already done for the year, shut down for the year.
And I also wanted to ask you about outlook now going into the early signing, because now this being the final kind of impression for recruits before they sign. Any concern over that, or what are your thoughts on this class and outlook into the early signing period?
Well, this class, majority of this class committed when before we had even played a down of football this year. So, it's recruiting time. It's obviously closing time. That's always an important time of year. But heck, if I was a recruit and I saw that, I'd double down on why I'd want to come. And feel like there's some great opportunities to do something similar to what the 2020 classes and get in here and make a difference.
All right, next up we have Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press. Tim, go ahead.
Manny, is it more anger or frustration right now? And I'm sorry I missed the first part of your opening statement. Did you have any indication that those backs were just going to be able to do that against you?
The backs are phenomenal, obviously, but that was, no. I don't think that's be hard to predict that occurring. And certainly we helped. And so that's really all I'll say about that.
All right, next up we have Manny Navarro of The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Diaz. There were so many instances where it just looked like guys were nowhere near those running backs once they were getting past the line of scrimmage. How much of this is on guys just not being in the right place? Is it scheme? What could you sort of initially, from watching what happened, say went wrong tonight?
We'll have to put the film on, Manny, and watch and say for sure before I make any proclamations one way or the other. They didn't run any plays tonight that we hadn't practiced against or didn't expect to see. It just when you're not there, and this is, to me, was both sides of the ball. It just materializes one way on defense, it materializes another way on offense. When you're not playing your best, that's what it looks like, and especially against a really explosive offensive football team. And so, like I said, I'll be able to say more next week after I watch the film. But that just our enthusiasm and our energy was lacking, and then everything becomes difficult when that's not there.
And I guess a second follow-up, people are going to look at this game and say, some people have already said, including Kirk Herbstreit, that getting embarrassed like this, takes away from the season, finishing the regular season like this. Do you feel that way at all, that maybe you guys took a step back tonight?
In reality, Manny, what is that, like a step back to where, to what, what does that even mean? We are who we are. We learned a harsh lesson tonight. It's worth one loss in the standings. We still have the ability to decide what we do next. So I mean, how long have we been in this tug of war of like, where do we stand, whatever, that we're not really interested in all that because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is how we continue to improve the program. Obviously we have to coach a lot better than we did tonight. We got to continue to recruit a lot better and get our guys competing. I'm still going to look at the end of the season at the finality of the totality of the entire year. And there is a lot to be proud of. Our guys have been at this thing for a long time. And something caught up to us tonight because I did not recognize the football team I saw on the field tonight. And again, I bear the responsibility for that.
All right, we have time for a few more. Next up, we have Gary Furman of Kane Sport. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, as an extension of what you were talking about a moment ago, were there things that they were doing schematically that you guys tried to adjust to as the game went on and just weren't able to? It looked like the run fits just weren't there. You would know better than me, obviously, but were they sealing off guys in a different way maybe than you'd seen in the past? Can you just take us a little deeper into maybe?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the run fits were not there. But I think a disappointing part and where I've got to do a better job is obviously we did not make the adjustments during the course of the game on what they were doing to get it stopped, they were able to just continue to do the same thing, same 2 or 3 things over and over again and have the success that they had. And then once you've got those backs out in the open field, then they really become a problem.
Do you think that there might have just been a little panic, possibly just because of the way that they were moving the ball and that might have impacted how the game went moving forward?
To me, it wasn't a panic thing. I mean, that's kind of hard to measure. It was just I mean, again, obviously there was just something we were not ourselves. We were not ourselves tonight. And I think that was the disappointing part. And that's going to make everything look really, really bad against a very motivated football team. That's just the biggest disappointment was that we just did not, with everything on the line tonight, that we took our eye off the ball. Very, very disappointing.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. Next up, we have Tom D'Angelo of the Palm Beach Post. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Manny, you talked about ending the season, having one more game to play. How much more emphasis does it now put on that game? And then considering what we've seen 2 of the last 3 years, the way the seasons have ended, how important is that to come off with a good feeling going into the offseason and playing well in the bowl game, wherever it is?
Yeah, I think it's very important, but it's very important to me for this football team because, again, over the course of the season, they've done a lot more right than wrong, and you want them to feel the reward for that. You want our older guys, certainly that's not the way some of the seniors wanted to have their senior day remembered. So I do think it's important that we put on a great performance, whatever bowl game we get to go to, but the offseason, this is going to be a big offseason, and I think our players even sense that. So it'd be great to go in there with some momentum from a bowl win.
All right, Coach. Our last question for you comes from David Wilson of the Miami Herald. David, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. On the offensive end, it seemed like penalties were really hurting you guys early from a lot of 3rd and long situations, and then also DJ Ivy's interception getting called back. Just the penalties keeping you guys from getting any sort of rhythm. Did you kind of feel that? And the Ivy play in particular felt like it could have been a momentum change. Was that particularly deflating?
Of course, yeah. We had a guy that didn't look at the personnel group that was in and ended up being on the field illegally. But offensively, you mentioned the penalties, but offensively, it was the same thing offensively as it was defensively. I mean, to me, after the first drive on offense, I don't think we had 50 yards of offense for much of the rest of the first half. And we just, again, we had practiced all week, and the plan all week was to really push the tempo and get lined up fast. And we were just, that wasn't what we did. And I think that's what we talked about in the locker room. We did not play the way that we practiced today. And so it affected both sides of the ball the same way. It just materializes in different ways.